Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You have reached the No Name Cinema Society, and it is Thursday, August 29th, 2019, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific, and we are kicking off our 56th series of episodes with this review of the current release, Ready or Not. Came out theaters August 21st, and we are here to review it today. Hi, everybody. My name is Jonathan Betzler. I am in a new place that you haven't seen before, I believe. I'm in Nolita. I'm in Nick Danger's apartment, but he just got back from Colombia. So he's a little tired, even though it's early-ish, 9 o'clock in the East Coast. And so I'm going to be talking. I'm going to aim to talk in a more calm, quiet tone of voice tonight, and we'll see how that goes. And we'll see if my co-host will follow suit here. And starting with, ladies and gentlemen, the worst father-in-law ever, Jim Carroll is back with us, also known as the Jeopardy champion.
Yeah, I'm not
Jim.
father-in-law yet.
Well, I mean, there's something Ava has to tell you. And also my cynical drunk brother, Patrick Taylor, the composer.
Hello.
All right, so we're excited to talk about this movie, Ready or Not. But before we do, it is my job to tell you what this 56th series of episodes will entail. Here is our schedule for our upcoming series episodes, starting tonight with the review of Ready or Not. A special Tuesday episode will be our Indie Spotlight, in which we're going to review Steven Soderbergh's The Girlfriend Experience from 2009. And on Thursday, September 5th, 1 week from tonight, we're going to do our classic movie discussion of the film Driving Miss Daisy, the Best Picture winner from 30 years ago this year. And on Monday, September 9th, will be our draw, in which James and Alex are going to join me, and I'm going to make a special announcement. Alex and I are going to report on our experience at TCM Fest this year. I'm going to do an obscure movie discussion of a film I saw at TCM Fest, and I'm going to count down the top 5 films with interracial friendships that based on our discussion of Driving Miss Daisy, and that is what's coming up. And we're using a new system tonight, so you'll see some different functionalities. Here you can see everybody at once. And Jim doesn't drink with me very often because he gets headaches or migraines or something wonky, but Patrick sometimes does. Patrick, I'm going to have wine. What are you having?
I'm going to have nothing tonight. I just need to sleep. I need a good natural sleep. So.
It's like 6 o'clock in the on the West Coast, so I don't know what your problem is. It's the perfect drinking time. It's happy hour out there.
Whatever, bro. You do you.
I am doing me. Cheers to anyone else drinking with me. It's time for the summer. You guys ready for me to summarize Ready or Not?
I'm set.
Ready or Not. Grace has agreed to marry Alex Ladomas and into a family that has dominated the board game industry for generations. As with many wealthy families, Alex's family has some quirky traditions, one of which is to welcome new members to the family with a game. Grace is unfortunate enough to draw the game with the highest possible stakes for both her and the family. Hide and Seek, the Life or Death edition. Time for opening thoughts. Jim's terrible at it, so we're going to start with Patrick. 1 sentence review. Patrick, how'd you feel about the movie?
Familiar plot line, but not predictable. I enjoyed it.
Well done on the opening thoughts. That'll show Jim how to do it. Jim, can you give me a 1 sentence review?
All right, I'm going to really try for this. A clever and unexpected movie. I also really liked it.
Well, I'm going to be the cheese that stands alone here. My opening thought is the suspension of disbelief required was a little too much for me. However, I will say it was a noble effort in the following sense, and I often talk on the show on how it's possible for direction to elevate a weak script. And I think this is a really good example of that. So that's where I'm going to start tonight. I'm going to start with talking about some of the directorial choices, and starting, of course, with tone. I feel like if the film was going to work, directors Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette accomplished just the right tone required to sell the concept, and they almost pulled it off. And for these guys, it sounds like they did. I think the shot choices were really on point without ever feeling forced. Each one pushes the action and the story forward, and we were always aware of the off-screen space in a complicated set. Those are elements that I really enjoyed about the film itself. Any of you guys have any comments about what I've said so far about the direction?
I didn't go in with terribly high expectations or really even knowing what the hell it was. I just went because you told me to go. Literally, I didn't even watch the trailer. I mean, everything about the film was quirky and interesting. I do feel what you're saying about the suspension of disbelief. You had to have a lot of that. But once you got over that fact, it was a lot of fun.
Right, and I'll get to that. I'll dig a little deeper on that when we get to the screenplay portion of the discussion. Jim,
Yeah, I mean, I thought the direction was really great too. Going off of what Patrick said, I have a category of movies that I call low expectation cinema,
Exactly.
where I go in expecting nothing and am almost always pleasantly surprised. This was definitely in that low expectation category, and I thought it definitely over delivered.
had you on one of our vlogs or on Instagram or something talking about how excited you were about this particular movie. The expectations weren't that low.
I was excited for it because I thought the trailer did a really good job of making what I expected to be a bad movie, and it made it look fun. It keeps getting billed as a horror movie. I don't think this was a horror movie at all. I thought the tone was exactly right. I mean, it reminded me of like a dark Clue because of this giant set piece, because you have this big ensemble cast and you have humor interjected into what is not a very funny situation, but they still managed to find those places where it got really funny and really dark.
The next thing I want to talk about sort of directly affects Patrick here. The other directorial thing that I thought was really good was actually the music, both in terms of the source music and Tyler Bates' score. He nicely incorporated the wedding march in a moment of tension, adding sort of counterpoint. And the music choices, I think, added to the tongue-in-cheek nature of the tone. At one point, they even played around with diegetic versus non-diegetic music. And Patrick is, of course, a award-winning composer. Patrick, anything on the music, either score or source music?
I should be noticing the score, but I was wrapped up in like just how ridiculous of a plot it was. So the score fit the grandioseness of the movie, but didn't take itself overly serious. The thriller moments felt right. I thought they did a really good job.
I will say that the hide and go seek song was the appropriate level of creepy.
Definitely.
The final point I want to make in the direction is one of the bad points about it from the directorial point of view, because I feel like the performances were a mixed bag, and in that sense, the directors weren't able to get all their actors in the zone of the tone, if you will. With such an ensemble piece, and this is me segueing to performances, with such an ensemble piece, instead of going into each individual performance, I feel like I'm just going to mention some performances that worked for me and some that didn't. The ones that were exceptional, ones that weren't. But I am going to single out right away is Samara Weaving, who this movie is built around. She turned out to be quite a terrific screen presence, in my view. Very natural and at ease in her character. In that sense, she becomes very likable as the movie goes along. She makes both the fear and the rage of a character believable, creating a character worthy of rooting for. I was not familiar with her prior to this, but I think she wound up doing a terrific job.
Yes, I thought Samara Weaving did a great job. She really anchored the movie. It was a very grounded take on a completely ridiculous situation.
I agree. Yeah.
I thought she did a great job. The parts where she was trying to be funny were actually funny, and it wasn't like rot. She wasn't like trying too hard, but it felt natural. And I thought she was perfect for the role. When you found out that she was supposed to be kind of a white trashy kind of a figure, it was like, oh well, she's like the perfect role for her. So I thought it was great.
So Jim talked about liking a lot of the performances, and in terms of what I singled out two that I thought, outside of Samara, I've singled out two that I thought were exceptional and two that I thought were actually very off. And the two that I thought were exceptional were Adam Brody and Henry Czerny. And Henry Czerny is almost always good.
Yeah, always great. He's always great. He plays the same role every time, but he's always great at it.
He's different things.
I've seen him in this role before. Evil.
There's something mysterious about him frequently in the roles that he plays, whether it be the original Mission Impossible or The Ice Storm. Far back as that. Always so compelling to watch to me. I think he's a Canadian actor. Jim, you hate Canadians, but how'd you feel about Adam and Henry?
I really did like them. I especially liked Adam Brody. You really understood why he was making the choices that he was making. For that character, you could really sit back on your heels and do nothing. He really went for it, and you understood everything that he did. I thought that was great.
Now, Jim, before I'm playing around with my new functionalities here, I don't like this one at all. Before I get into the performances that didn't work for me, are there performances you'd like to add to the performances that did work for you? Or would you rather wait to see what my bumps are?
I mean, I have a feeling. I don't know. Maybe we'll disagree. I really liked Christian Bruin, who played Fitch. I thought he was the right amount of bumbling, broy jerk that you wanted him to be.
I would say that he did not bump for me. Like, I didn't feel like he was exceptional enough to be worth mentioning. Like, he was a flat character. Regardless, he delivered what the character was supposed to be.
He performed all of that one dimension.
Correct. There are other characters that I felt like were supposed to have shape that did not. And so outside of Samara Weaving, the performances that I think missed were some of the other women in the movie. Specifically Andie MacDowell, who has never really been known for her range. At one point in the movie, she needed to reveal a darker, more desperate side. She was the voice of reason for the first half of the movie, but when she was pushed, we needed to see her take it up a couple notches the way Henry Czerny did. She stayed on the same note the whole movie, and I feel like when the push came to shove, she needed to ratchet it up a little bit.
In the beginning, I felt like she was going to be kind of an endearing character, and then she had that turn, but I guess she could have done a better job. But the mother was inconsequential. She should have been maybe a bigger character, but she didn't take me out at all.
I saw potential there, and that to me is like the cardinal sin of movie making. If you have an untapped thing there, and I feel like she missed the arc of that character. Jim, was this one of the ones you were predicting I was going to single out as a problem?
You know, I thought about it. I actually thought that you would mention her. I also think her character was a little bit underwritten. You know, she only really got 2 scenes, and you get sort of a before and after.
I tell you why I disagree in the sense that I feel like there's this moment in I think it might have been right at the second act plot point, like when the second act shifts to the third act. That's where she needed to have her arc. I mean, I feel like that was, as many problems as I have with the screenplay, I feel like this is on her, because I mean, like, I feel like the words are there, the moment of shift is there, but she does not perform it. So I mean, like, I think what you're interpreting is underwritten, and as an actor, maybe you're just being nice to the actor. What you're interpreting is underwritten, I'm seeing as a missed opportunity from a performance point of view.
Sure.
The other missed performance, and maybe this is the same one that took Patrick out, is the character of Emily, as played by Melanie Scrofano. She was similarly flat and one note, and she pushed way too hard to hit the beats that she required to. I did not believe her ever, not as a neurotic, not as a coke addict, not as a mother of 2. Nothing she did rang true for me. All the energy she was giving felt hollow and false. Patrick, is that the one that you were thinking about?
No, I was thinking about, I guess, the aunt. Her character could have had that arc that you're suggesting.
Yeah, it's funny because I interpret that as being underwritten, because the revelation came way too late, and like, I don't feel like she had like the scene, and most of it was done in flashback. So I'm not sure the actor had the opportunity to pull a switch, because the switch happened before the movie started.
Right.
For them.
Right. I also just didn't like her. I just didn't. I thought it was too.
You know, at that, you know, I almost feel like someone said, almost like Christian Brun, like it was so inconsequential. I didn't really like make note of it one way or the other.
Kind of. I mean, once I got the moment in the film where it was like, oh, okay, that's why she's so crazy.
You're not wrong. I mean, it was not there. Jim, why don't you tell us about Melanie Scrofano?
Yeah, I mean, I thought she was just sort of Fitch light. I mean, she did not do anything special for me. I get what you're saying. Also, sort of a small point where, you know, she was this, another clown character. Christian Bruin, I thought he pulled it off. I actually had a completely different character in mind that I thought you were going to go with.
The brother, the older brother. Hopefully,
it was Mark O'Brien for me. Alex,
yeah.
For kind of what the reasons that you mentioned with Andie MacDowell. He has a big moment in the climax. And
I just think he's so cute. I can forgive him for anything.
I have to tell you that when I said that, my daughter gave me both middle fingers, because apparently she loves Mark O'Brien.
Double barrel.
He stole my bedroom for this.
Co-star. All right.
But I loved Mark O'Brien the entire time.
Don't give away anything now.
Okay. But like,
no spoilers.
I think he had the
You're completely off camera.
Okay. I think he had the biggest kind of like turn in character, and I think it came unexpectedly, and I think that made the movie kind of like, I don't know how to describe it, like more like poppy Does that make any sense?
Yeah, see exactly.
No, not Poppy. Does not make sense to me.
And see what she just mentioned, the unexpectedness of this moment. That was my problem. I don't think he played up to that moment.
I'm more inclined to agree with you, Jim, on this. But I mean, this actually, that turn is something I was going to bring up in the screenplay and theme section. So let's maybe put a pin in that, and then Ava will chime back in when I address it. But I do gladly. What I agree with you with, Jim, is the arc was incomplete and underserved. I actually think ultimately there's an editing issue there. Scenes are missing that could have stitched that together. So I would argue that the jury is out on his performance to some degree.
We'll have to wait for the unrated version in 6 months when we add all those scenes back in.
And we'll have to review it all over again. So now we get to open the can of worms on the screenplay itself. And my biggest issue, as I alluded to with Patrick earlier, is the premise. And the screenwriters seem hyper aware of the silliness of the premise. And to their credit, they directly address the same questions you or I might have. The problem is I did not buy the answers to those questions. And hence, the whole foundation of the film is shaky.
It's C-list at best. JV, come on. Like, what are you doing?
Are we grading
it wasn't predictable, but it was common. Like, the storyline was common. Like, you're in a mansion. Of course, the rich people are weird. But you're right. You draw a card, and of course, she draws the worst card. Once you're sitting in the movie and expectations are that low, the premise is whatever. You know, it's like, okay, we're here now. I wanted it to get worse. I was actually upset that it was getting better as time went on. Like when I heard the plot, I was like, okay, this is going to be a shit show. But then as it went on, I was like, okay, all right, I'm in it, and I feel like it's believable. And then especially when she got to the barn, I was like, wow, it's giving me horror moments. So it just kept elevating itself from a terrible place. But I wasn't expecting a beautiful storyline.
I mean, I hear you saying, but at the same time, I feel like it could have achieved some of those same goals without relying on convenience, contrivance as luck as much as it did. It figured in way too often for my liking. It left many questions and plot holes. There are a lot of fun moments in this movie and some entertaining characters, but it played a little too fast and loose with logic to be as complete as it could have been. It could have been better. As fun as it was. Jim.
I mean, screenplay-wise, there's something specific I want to talk about, which is more theme that I thought they did a great job with.
That's interesting.
I'm going to stick a pin in this.
You're going to wait for that. Okay, well, that is the next thing because I feel like I was going to say screenplay-wise, the film failed in really delivering on its potential theme that it suggested. But it suggested it, but didn't really explore it thoroughly enough, which segues us directly to the T word, the section where we talk about themes. Yes, Ready or Not does have a couple themes, at least that I discerned. And it's funny, when Davey, our old host, didn't know or understand the theme of a movie, he would always say that the theme was family as a catch-all. Except in this movie, I think that is the primary theme of Ready or Not, family. Specifically for Alex, it's about choosing between the family you can choose versus the family that you're given. And there's also the interesting concept of Grace having grown up an orphan and never having a family of her own. And those are great ideas that are merely touched upon and could have been explored further without disrupting the fun. I think it would have raised the stakes and therefore enhanced the fun. Alex was sort of sidelined in the script. That was what I was suggesting earlier when you were talking about Mark O'Brien's performance. I feel like his dilemma and arc kind of happened off screen. So I didn't necessarily blame Mark O'Brien as much. I think he needed to be a larger part of the proceedings, perhaps almost in a Yojimbo kind of way, trying to play both sides against the middle more, or search for some kind of loophole that so he wouldn't have to choose between one or the other. That's how I would have addressed it. And second, I think we needed to see Grace actually bond with the family more before the proceedings, so we got a sense that she was excited to finally be a part of the family. And then when things take a turn, it crushes her dream. Higher stakes and a missed opportunity. Jim, is that in line with what you were thinking?
The family is definitely an important thing. I thought something that was super interesting was you sort of have this question throughout the whole thing. Is there a supernatural presence involved in here or is there not? But really at the heart of it, does it matter? Are these people just evil for evil's sake or being driven to it to protect themselves? How corrupt the money has made them. None of them want to give that up.
Right, which leads me to my other theme, which is another thing I think they handled badly, and that's classism. I mean, I think they at one point wanted to say something about the classes and different classes, but by just showing quirky rich people, like I felt like it was a little too lopsided for us to really get a sense of a distinction of classes. You know what I mean? Like it was just too broad for that to work. So I didn't like that aspect of it either. Patrick, either of these themes, whether family or classism, work with you?
I think they did touch on classism, obviously, a lot. The fact that the brother's wife had no problem with participating in this murderous family, all so that she could stay rich and stay powerful because she was once poor. Like the butler was just like, why was he doing all those things if not just to stay close to the seat of power and the seat of wealth? So I think it did touch on those themes through the characters who had no reason to be a part of this craziness other than them staying close to this powerful, wealthy family. So yeah, I mean, I think if one of the big themes is how money can corrupt, how money even corrupted the children, how it just corrupts everyone, and sometimes an outsider is the only one that can see how
it doesn't corrupt me, Patrick. When you hire me for those big jobs and I get a lot of money, I take you to the baseball game.
JB, that's what I'm saying. Why did you go to the baseball game? Save your money, you know? What are you doing?
I took you to a baseball game.
You bought season tickets for no reason. I'm paying you good money. Just save it. What are you doing? I went. I might.
So do you guys at least agree with me that we talk about these themes, classism, family? I think family is the bigger one for me. Do you feel like, as I do, that there are missed opportunities as far as this film is concerned?
I mean, I don't think that they. I think with the fact that we all picked up on these, I didn't really expect them to go even as deeply as they did in these themes. Again, it was sort of a low expectation. I really expected a lot more surface, and the fact that they even started asking these questions was a positive for me. I also think that you can boil this down. There's the line that Mark has where he's like, you do all of these terrible things with family and you just accept them as normal until one day you realize that they're not. I really liked that as sort of a little encapsulation of like how horrible from the outside it must be to grow up in this family, but these kids on the inside are just corrupted from the get-go. The fact that you have characters who can break the cycle is interesting in of itself.
Now, how do you feel about my suggestions about how to make it better, both in terms of bringing Mark into the fold more so that we get a sense of his arc, and also more bonding with Grace to raise the stakes? How do you feel about those screenplay suggestions?
Yeah, I think you can definitely have Mark. I think Mark needs more of like a balance, and maybe bringing him into the fold or giving him more of the conflict of who he's choosing to be with. I definitely think that could be in there more. And I'm sorry, what was the second one again?
Having a little more in the first act. Usually problems happen in the first act. A little more first act stuff with Grace and the family, so that maybe the family isn't as kooky from the get-go. Maybe they're like warm and welcoming in a grounded way, so that Grace feels like finally a part of a family, and so there's something for her to lose when things have a turn for the worse.
I mean, we definitely learn about their relationship through exposition. We're told about the relationship in
right.
the scene, and I would love to see a little bit more of that, because we really only see Grace and Andy McDowell, Samara Weaving and Andy McDowell having that little moment apart. But there's nobody else that really.
A very little moment. It's a very little moment.
Yeah.
Patrick, how do you feel about my suggestions?
The way I feel about it is like, if there's 10 minutes, 20 minutes more of the movie, I mean, would you take out parts of the movie later? Like I didn't leave the movie thinking I wanted to live in this world any longer. It wasn't a bad thing.
I might cut out some stuff here and there. Yeah.
Well, you also said that you would.
I mean, like,
I wouldn't want to have 30 more minutes of this movie.
No, I would probably balance it out. Maybe it'd be a total of I'd add 10 and subtract 5 kind of thing. I feel like maybe they fetishized the image of an armed bride maybe a little too much. I mean, I feel like that was an image that they kept coming back to, and
They had to for the trailer.
they went to that well too many times. But all right, guys, are there other themes? We talked about family and classicism, and I feel like they missed on both of them. Are there other themes that you guys picked up on that I did not mention?
I don't feel like there's very much more depth in this movie.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a more grander theme than what you're suggesting. Alex saw the movie, and I asked her, out of 10, how would you rate this movie? She said 9. I was like, wow.
That's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. I swear to God.
Your imaginary girlfriend is highly questionable.
I swear she said it, and I was like, wow, that is amazing. She really enjoyed it.
I did ask Maddie to rate the movie. That's the other daughter. And she said 8.5.
Wow, these are big scores. These are big scores.
Hi, Maddie. On that note, I'm going to close things out. Do either of you have closing thoughts?
August has always been known as sort of the dumping ground, or one of the dumping grounds for movies.
January being the other.
This year and last year, I found really fun, little unexpected movies.
Was The Hitman's Bodyguard one of them?
No.
That was a terrible film. I saw that on the plane, and I was like, I have to turn this off.
Jim, what were you saying?
So Bad Times at the El Royale last year was another, like, I don't know how this is going to go, but let's go into it, try it out. I left really happy, and sort of the same way here. Like the trailer I'm really feeling the trailer. Let's see if the movie can hold up. And again, I walked out and I was like, I'm really happy with that.
Patrick.
I honestly was listening to NPR and thinking to myself, and when they were giving out the box office, it has to be in the top 4 or 5 because it was a fun movie. I'm curious why people aren't watching the film. I mean, it has a pretty blonde, it has rich people, it has blood and gore.
Not that pretty. I don't think she's a very good actor. I don't think she's that pretty.
What do you mean? She's pretty. What?
She's not as pretty as Jim.
Wow. They're putting a high bar.
I thought she was pretty. I mean,
I'm surprised I did not find her attractive. Let's put it that way. She's like got everything that I'm normally attracted to, but for some reason there was something about her I was not. I did not like. She's very talented. I just didn't feel that thing that I feel for Margot Robbie. Let's say. On that note, our next current feature is going to be about a month from now. We're hoping to get Ad Astra reviewed on Thursday, September 26th, 2019. So hopefully we'll be back in about a month. But before that, just this upcoming Tuesday, a special post-Labor Day episode here in New Leda. George and Alex and I will be reviewing The Girlfriend Experience from director Steven Soderbergh as we continue spotlighting indies from 2009. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, this meeting of the No Name Cinema Society is adjourned.
Woo.